How does analysing a situation quickly cause us to reach the wrong conclusions? The book Thinking Fast and Slow describes rules of thumb that prevent us from thinking too much about things and lead us to reach the wrong conclusions. Our brain includes two types of systems, one which works slowly and one that operates automatically. These systems cannot work in parallel, and the tendency is to prefer to think quickly. When we think quickly, we tend to make mistakes. These mistakes are caused by the use of heuristics, mental shortcuts. Let's see what exactly heuristics are. Chapter 4: The Associative Machine. Our current thoughts rely on our prior thoughts, even our subconscious ones. For example, if we watch a game show on TV while cooking dinner and the contestant has to fill in the missing letter in the word SO_P, we automatically think of the letter U. However, if we are thinking about heading for the shower, we will automatically think of the letter A. Similarly, people on the show who were asked to smile laugh at the game show host's jokes much more often than the people who weren't asked to smile. Chapter 9: Answering an Easier Question. In real life, most questions are complex and have no simple answer. People don't answer the real question, they answer an alternative, easier question. For example, the country I live in forbids the operation of casinos. If you ask someone on the street a question like, "What impact on the economy will operating a casino have?" they'll probably say something like, "Poor people will lose a lot of money." What that person is asking himself is, will there be poor people who will gamble and lose money at the casino? And the answer to that question is simpler. The original question is harder, and the answer to it is much more complicated. Chapter 11: Anchors. The first number we see in a particular situation sets the tone for all future numbers. We'll compare them to the first number we saw. For example, if we find out that the average score on a test is 75, we'll be disappointed if we get a 65. On the other hand, if someone tells us that they got a 60, we'll feel better about getting a 65, even though all the grades are for the same test. Meaning, our satisfaction with our test score isn't determined according to the actual grade, but according to our point of reference. Chapter 12: The Science of Availability. Our assessment of the chances of running into a particular situation is linked to our awareness of that situation, and not to the actual chance of running into it. For example, we'll be more afraid to get on a plane after a plane crash, even though in reality, driving a car is more dangerous than flying in every possible respect. The reason we'll be afraid to take a plane is that the news channel covered the accident, and not because statistics show the odds of a plane crash depending on how many flights we get on. Chapter 17: Regression to the Mean. Performance results tend to normalize to the average value. For example, a coach decides not to praise a player's good performance because he's afraid the effect will be a drop in performance. The coach thinks that after being praised for good work, the player won't put as much effort into his performance, and the result won't be as good. However, the drop in performance isn't because of the coach's praise, it's because most of the player's actions are in line with his average, which is lower than his best. Chapter 19: The Illusion of Understanding. When recounting the past, we tend to create a convincing story based not on luck, but on talent as the deciding factor. For example, Google has become a successful company because 2 Stanford graduates found a better search algorithm for information on the internet. They raised funding and made several decisions, which led to the company becoming one of the most profitable companies in the world. You may assume that there's a clear explanation to how, at each and every turning point, the founders at Google made the right decisions for success. The truth, however, is that luck played a very big part in their success. For example, early on, an investor decided not to buy the company for $1 million. He didn't think the company was worth that much. That was luck. Chapter 20: The Illusion of Validity. This is the illusion of belief in our ability, that our abilities and nothing else are what determine the final outcome. For example, Daniel believes that the investment experts industry is based on the illusion of the greater ability of the investment experts to invest money. An examination of 10,000 accounts and 163,000 sales decisions regarding selling one stock and buying another revealed that the stock sold actually gained 3.2% more than the stock bought each year following the sale. In the end, the investment experts weren't such great experts. Chapter 21: Intuitions versus Formulas. When making decisions, the use of formulas is always better than relying on human intuition. Experts try to think outside the box when there is a lot of data, which leads to less reliable results than if they were to use a formula. For example, take the APGAR test, performed on every newborn to check their breathing. Before specific parameters were set up for the test, every doctor examined the babies using a different method and relied on their gut instincts, which led to non-uniform test results. The APGAR test provides a reliable diagnostic measure for the baby's respiratory status and is based on a very technical test. Chapter 29: The Fourfold Pattern. When faced with the need to decide regarding a specific possibility, people tend to make a choice based on its emotional associations and not its probability. An example of this is when a sick person decides to invest large amounts of money paying people with powers to help them recover from their illness. Doctors acquire extensive training and continuously improve their skills, and in the end earn an average paycheck, while healers and people with powers get rich promising something very unlikely to the patients interested in buying. Chapter 32: Keeping Score. People give themselves points for their achievements as they see fit. Giving yourself points will lead you to take actions that are not financially smart. For example, a person with a credit card debt should probably decide to use his savings to pay it off. However, most people will decide to keep their money in savings, even though it's not the financially smarter thing to do. The reason for this decision is that they rate saving money higher than crossing off debt. Therefore, they have more motivation to increase their savings than clear themselves of debt. To make sure you don't miss any of our videos, subscribe to our mailing list.